You're listening to Packers Talk Network.
Do you want to experience the thrill of a Packers game at Lambeau Field? If so, be sure to get your guaranteed authentic tickets from theticketking.com, a longtime trusted source and local Green Bay business. Just go to packerstalk.com/tickets for more information and ticket links. That's packerstalk.com/tickets.
Man, I should change that to the Bears still suck this week.
That would be perfect.
We did that after week 1, didn't we?
We did.
The Bears still suck. The Bears still suck. I'll give it a token Bears still suck for us. How we doing, Tim? How we doing, sir?
Playoffs? We're talking about playoffs.
We're talking about the
for
playoffs.
real this time. We're doing awesome.
Ooh.
Beat the Vikings, beat the Bears, and now it's on the Dallas.
That's right. So welcome to the Packers Weekly podcast, y'all. Part of the PackersTalk.com network. I'm your host, Miles Teddick, joined by your co-host, Tim Hamilton. We are diehard Packers fans that love talking about the Pack, and we got a lot of fun stuff to talk about today. We're not messing around with any of the national sports stuff. We're getting straight into real football, and we're diving into the top topics around the Pack every week, this week, next week, breaking down games because we're still playing football, and then we'll start sorting through all the drama and the nonsense of the offseason when we get to the offseason because we're not there yet. But if you would, and if you enjoyed this show, please spike the like button, share the show if you can, subscribe, however you're watching this, YouTube, X, Twitter, Facebook, all the social medias, whatever you can do. Usually only takes a few seconds. Go ahead and give us some support there. It really goes a long way and means a lot to us. That said, man, we have some fun stuff to get into here, Tim. Why don't you lead us off, man? Give me how you're feeling right now going into the playoffs in Jordan Love's first year as a starter.
Feeling like they're ahead of schedule. Like, this is amazing. And we've talked about the roller coaster ride all season, and it's back on top again. But the progress that Jordan Love has made, that to me is even bigger than them going to the playoffs. The playoffs are just like, it's just a cherry on top. And it's an awesome feeling to know that this team, from where they were at the beginning of the year, from where they were when they were sitting at 2-5, to now be a playoff team with this young of a roster and a first-year starter. It's incredible. It's awesome. They have their quarterback. We know he's their franchise quarterback. That's more important than any playoff appearance or any playoff victories that they may get. They have their guy going forward, and that's the biggest success of the season. But now that they can take that on, and they're the underdogs going to Dallas, but who cares? Like, just let it ride. There's nothing to lose in this game. The season's already a success, and the future's incredibly bright because they have a franchise quarterback, and he's already one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. I don't like jumping to those, statements after just 17 games as a starter, but it's clear, and it's clear the talent that he has and the way he functions with Matt LaFleur in the offense. And then when you factor in all the young talent at receiver and tight end that they have, the future is incredibly bright for Jordan Love and for the offense. So, we'll see what happens in Dallas. We'll get to Dallas. We'll talk about them a lot here, but beating the Bears is always fun, but it's even sweeter when you beat them on the way to the playoffs, which we're used to doing that. That's nothing new.
Right.
But you stomp on them again, and you prove to them, if they still had doubters, which, there's still a lot of doubters on Twitter, Bears fans talking smack about Jordan Love, but like, we already have another quarterback. This is 3 in a row. And you're still searching for the guy. And your guy's already through 3 seasons there as a starter. And Jordan's way better. Like, it's not even close. Yeah. And now they're trying to figure out, do we keep Justin Fields? Do we draft somebody number 1 overall? Like, it should be a no-brainer, but it's the Bears.
Snaps.
And hopefully they keep them. But it's just, you break their hearts again, and you set them up for years of failure because they know that the Packers have a guy again.
That's right. That's
So
right. And
it
how
couldn't.
sweet
It
is
couldn't.
it? Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it couldn't end. The regular season couldn't end any better than by crushing the hopes of the Vikings and basically ending their season, and then rubbing it in the Bears' face that we have another quarterback. Like we have our guy again.
It
And
doesn't
now,
get better than that, man. I
no,
mean, I guess it does. Winning a
it
Super Bowl
does.
would be better
But
than that. But man, that's
to end
pretty
the regular
sweet.
to end a regular season, yeah, that's a pretty perfect end of the regular season to beat the two
And let's
rivals.
say the line: Jordan Love has a statistically better season than any Bears quarterback ever in his
And
first
he's
year.
a first-year starter.
Buckle up, Bears fans. Gonna be fun.
And and guess what? He's gonna get better.
He's gonna get better. He is.
He's gonna get better.
Yeah. So no, let's. I'm pumped, and I've gotta eat a little crow here. I said it. I said I don't know how many weeks ago now. It was several weeks ago. I said this is not a playoff team. I'm
Yeah,
wrong.
we both said it. Yeah.
I'm wrong. This is a playoff team, and I think that the team as it stood before, we were probably right. That team probably didn't belong in the playoffs, but this is. These guys are growing every week, and this team is not the same team from 6 weeks ago. This is a playoff team. This offense belongs in the playoffs for sure. I'm not here to give Joe Barry any crowns he hasn't earned, but, good game against the Bears. Appreciate you. But, yeah, just very, very excited that, ahead of schedule in Jordan Love's timeline and the timeline of a rebuild. Very, very excited. So, headed to the playoffs. Woo, woo.
It's awesome. And that was a game that unfortunately was 17-9. It didn't feel that close, and it really shouldn't have been that close. They left a lot of points on the field, but just a sweet win. And Jordan played great. His receivers made the plays when they needed it. Aaron Jones was incredible again, and you see the difference he's made in 3 weeks back. I mean, 3 100-yard games. He's been such a key addition late in the season here, and I think that's really what's sprung this team and put them on this run that they've gone on, is getting Aaron Jones back. But you also got to give credit to the defense. As much as we've killed Joe Barry for basically all season, but especially the last month or so, like, they had a good game plan and they executed it very well. The pressure that they got on Justin Fields, I think, was huge in that game, because there were still some guys running open when he did have time to throw. But just relentless pressure up front, and they kept him in the pocket. I mean, he didn't hurt him with his legs really at all in that game.
Yeah.
And
so who are your game MVPs then? Give me one on each side of the ball.
So it's hard to not go to Jordan Love. I mean, it's like that every week, but I'll go Aaron Jones just because of not only what he did against the Bears and finishing him off in that last 6-minute drive to end the game, but what he's done the last 3 weeks coming back. He's been a difference maker, and he puts this offense on a different level. And that's still, they're not even completely healthy. I mean, Musgrave played a handful of snaps. He had 1 catch. Watson's not back. They lose Romeo Doubs in the first half. So it's like they can't even get everybody in there, and they're still functioning like this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just sitting here like, can they just get everybody on the field? It's not going to happen this year. I mean, maybe, but most likely they're not going to have everybody, or they're at least not going to have everybody at full strength. But to get Aaron Jones back and going,
huge.
It's huge. It's huge. And
No
he's been awesome. And credit, I mean, you can give I know we're only probably supposed to give one MVP, but Aaron Jones and the offensive line, run block. I mean,
good.
As good as Aaron Jones has been, he's had some holes, and I mean huge holes to run through. And the run blocking's really improved. Yes, Aaron Jones makes it look better, but they're doing their job up front. And the pass protection, I mean, we talked about the Bears defense coming into the game and how good Montez Sweat has been, but did Montez Sweat even play yesterday? Didn't hear his name.
He disappeared, man.
Yeah. And last week against the Vikings, against all the blitzing that the Vikings do and Danielle Hunter and all that, their offensive line's really picked it up and been very good. So credit to the line, all of them, but really shout outs to the tackles, Rasheed Walker, Zach Tom, Elton Jenkins is playing great. So, yeah, those would be my game MVPs on offense. If we want to flip it to defense, I mean, Quay Walker, I thought, had a really strong game. Carl Brooks, Jair quietly. He didn't make a ton of plays, but Jair was there. And that was the response you wanted to see.
Yeah.
Kenny Clark's getting it done and Preston getting it done. But Carl Brooks, I think, for a rookie to have an impact like that, to get credit for 2 sacks, and I think create another one that he set up for Kenny Clark in the game. Just awesome performance to see from a rookie like Carl Brooks. Those are my MVPs.
Man, rookies jumped off the page in this game. That was the thing that, and I was kind of trying to do some live tweeting for our podcast account. Live tweeting is harder than it seems. But that seemed like the thing that just jumped out to me, man, is the rookies were making plays. LVN getting his sack, Carl Brooks doing his thing, and then Dontavian Wicks, my guy. This guy is looking every bit
He's awesome.
a NFL receiver as the guys that are ahead of him right now. And so, yeah, I think if I had to go and select one MVP just to sort of mix things up and not be too repetitive, because there is not – you can't say too much about Aaron Jones. But Dontavian Wicks, man, that guy had himself a game, a coming-out party, 2 touchdowns. Packers fans are aware of him, but I think the rest of the league is starting to, raise an eyebrow at this guy. And it's hard to miss how much he looks like a certain other Tay that Packers fans are familiar with. We saw some comparison video flying around Twitter today, and he does. He looks a lot like number 17. So that could be fun to watch.
Right off the line of scrimmage, he looks like him.
He does, and we're not going to make any unreasonable predictions here.
No.
I'm not predicting another, 17 2.0 here, but it's very, very encouraging to see a receiver playing like that as a rookie. Again, it's not like Dontavian Wicks was the first-round pick, and most casual fans weren't sure who he was. So this is exciting to see him playing. I give him the offensive MVP, and then the defensive MVP I give to Jair Alexander for leadership reasons. Him responding the way that he did, you can kind of see that personality coming back. You could definitely see him being active in communicating before the play, and he was very visibly part of the game. Not to mention, DJ Moore had a pretty quiet night compared, when you're talking about one of the top receivers in the league. So, those would be my 2 game MVPs. Very fun to watch a lot of these guys. We could probably just go down the list of starters and have some compliments, but we don't have that kind of time here. Fun to watch, fun to see them win another meaningful game over the Bears. Very reminiscent, not as close, but of the game, was it 2018 maybe, with Randall Cobb getting that game-winning touchdown catch against the Bears at the end.
To win the division, it was
2012,
2013, something like that. Yeah,
gosh,
we beat them.
That long ago. 2018.
I think it was 2013 because it was 10 years or. God. 11 years.
It's crazy. Time flies.
But
anyway, it's fun to see that. I definitely can't help but think about winning the NFC Championship game at Soldier Field as well. That was just extra sweet. And so this one too. This one's quite sweet. Talk about letting them know that Jordan Love is a legitimate quarterback. Just can't say enough. So moving on here, we're in the playoffs. I got a question for a lot of people. Does anybody want to get rid of Jair still? Because that seemed to be a hot topic not that long ago, and I don't know. Anybody still feeling that, you think?
They shouldn't be. I mean, he responded the way you wanted him to respond, both on the field and off the field, with his comments when he was back on Wednesday, the press conference, and then he played a good game for him. So it seems like, at least for a week, he's locked in and ready to go. And if this continues, that's exactly what you want to see from him. And I think like what happened with him with the suspension and the off-field stuff, we've seen it. A bunch of different teams have issues with their players. And most of the time it doesn't work out, where that player's either pretty quickly gone or maybe in the off season's gone. But it seems like both sides really want to make it work. And at least for a week. Now, time's going to tell. So let's see what happens the rest of the season, the off season, but it's working and they're staying true to what they're saying, both Matt LaFleur and Jair. And his response, the Packers' response, it's been what was needed and what you wanted to see in order to keep him with this team and on the field. I don't think the Packers want to get rid of him at all, but I think they were kind of forced to suspend him. Like that was kind of like he'd done enough. They had to do something, but
stepped over the line.
It shows, like, whether it's LaFleur or Goody, because I think they're both obviously were involved with the suspension. It shows how they're able to connect with the players. And this talk about LaFleur losing the locker room and, they're going to start turning on him and all that stuff, like, that's a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
And it makes me think of comments that I heard today from someone who I think he used to play in Green Bay, talking about they need to get the bullshit out of the building. So
is that the guy that's got a comment about something that has nothing to do with football that's about to get him sued?
That's him. Yeah.
Shmimmy Shimmel.
I guess everybody else's bullshit, but his. But my point being, like, I don't think there is bullshit in the building, and I think that's why they're able to connect with Jair and hopefully make this work.
I agree.
I think a lot of the bullshit is not in the building after last season. It was swept away in the offseason. But I think they can connect with him a lot better than maybe other situations on other teams where there would be a divorce between player and team.
Well,
so I don't think it's that enough.
The situation too, I mean, you have to consider all the factors, right? They just signed Jair to an extension. So there's that, and that doesn't make it easy to move on from. Certainly can. But this guy is, when healthy, and they know this in the building better than anybody, he is one of the best DBs in the league at 26 years old. If he's 30, maybe, like he is in his prime, entering his prime. There's no reason for a guy, like, just because he went out there and anointed himself a captain, like, if that was really a problem, the players would have had a problem with it, and none of the players had a problem with it. They all had his back. And that's kind of the interesting dynamic here is it seemed like the players had his back, but at the end of the day, since he was a good soldier, the coaches and everybody sort of had his back too. It's like, all right, hey, look, take your suspension, come on back, everything's good. I mean, everybody looks very happy. And I don't know if you caught this too. Maybe this is just fresh on my mind. But this morning, there was a local news reporter outside of Lambeau. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did.
And Jair comes running up to her, go Pack go, and Pack is back. And she says, you heard it first here from this fan. And it's just amazing to me that she had no idea who that was. And kind of a beautiful moment, though, because that wasn't like outside the locker room. She was outside the atrium, like right outside the pro shop there. Very public area. And he running out there, getting a little shout out in. It just seemed like a very friendly move from that guy who very recently was not friendly with the media at all. That was kind of part of, some of the smoke that led us to believe there was fire. But yeah, I think that the whole context of the situation, you can't just say, all right, well, there's a problem, so divorce. There's there's got to be room for redemption there, and I think that they all managed to do that. Now, whether that involves Joe Barry leaving or not is yet to be seen. We'll find out. But that was one of my theories, at least. And I will say that theory took a hit after Preston Smith, I believe it was, came out and tweeted that Joe Barry called a hell of a game. Oh man, I really want to be excited about that, but we've seen this before, man. Yeah, I swear Joe Barry's like the king of December right now as the Packers defensive coordinator. He's had some good Decembers, but what about the other months, man? Like all the other fool's gold we've seen. So I don't know what to think right now. What do you think, man? What do you make of those comments?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just Preston sticking up for his coach, and he did call a good game yesterday. Joe Barry deserves credit. The plan was good. I don't want to kill Joe Barry this week. Let's stay on the positive side of things. Like, they won, they're going to the playoffs, and he had a good game as a play caller, and what the scheme was good. So I think it's just Preston being a good veteran and having his coaches back. I don't think it means anything long term with Joe Barry. If they go on a run here in the playoffs and the defense plays really well, then he's probably saving his job. But if they go down to Dallas and Dak Prescott throws for 350 on them and Tony Pollard runs for 140, he's out. And I think you also, like, LaFleur was interesting at his press conference on Monday. I think they were kind of asking him, like, how much are you now involved in the defense? Because he had said he was going to be more involved, I think, after the Tampa Bay game. And he said, yeah, like, he wouldn't give a clear picture of how much he's doing, but he's definitely more involved. And he said he even talked to some of his friends around the league, other coaches that are kind of in a similar situation, like, how much time are you spending on that side of the ball? So that tells me he's definitely more involved. Maybe he's, I don't think he's greatly involved just because he's the play caller and he does have to spend so much time on offense, but he's definitely more involved. And you can see their defensive plans have changed really since the Carolina game. They're playing more man coverage. They're blitzing more. It didn't work against Carolina, but it's worked the last 2 weeks against the Vikings and the Bears. They do look somewhat differently on defense with the way that they're structuring the defense with some of these blitzes that we're seeing. We saw yesterday they were doing 5-man pressures, which is great because it was leaving guys like Kenny Clark and Carl Brooks one-on-one. Yeah. And they weren't able to double team them because the line had to account for 5 guys. And they were even kind of showing Quay Walker at times as a blitzer, and then he would just stop and pull up and be the spy on Fields. But that offensive lineman was still committed to him, and it was too late for him to switch and double team anywhere because he was already committed to blocking Quay. So credit to Joe Barry, but I think Matt LaFleur is definitely involved and, telling him what he wants to see and telling him what to execute as far as the play caller. So Barry deserves credit for the Bears game, but beyond that, I don't think a whole lot's changed really.
Well, and he doesn't have a good draw here. I mean, going to Dallas, playing against that offense, they have played incredibly well in that building this season.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can argue that he's had a little bit of an easy second half of the season. He definitely let a few less than stellar QBs look better than they should. But now you're going against Dak Prescott, you're going against CeeDee Lamb, you're going against a good offensive line, you're going against McCarthy calling plays, who he's still got it, man. That guy knows what he's doing. He's been around the block now. He's played these playoff games. He's won a Super Bowl. He's been there, done that. So that team's going to be prepared. I don't think you can expect a Cowboys team to come tripping out the gate and giving you any kind of, just spotting you points early, right? Like any kind of mistakes that you can take advantage of and jump out to an early lead on them. If anything, I think it's a track meet that you've got to be able to hang in until the end where maybe people do make a mistake when they get tired. But we'll get to breaking down the Cowboys game a little bit more in a little bit, but I'm very excited about this matchup, man. I like where this is headed. We'll be able to tell after this game, is Joe Barry's performance here against the Bears fool's gold or not. We'll see, man. Either way, I'm just ecstatic. I'm not. You're right. Let's stay positive. I'm not going to bring any negative to a playoff win over the Bears. Or a win to get into the playoffs over the Bears. It's Jordan Love's first season. He's the guy. There's no more question about that. But now he's looking every bit as capable as his predecessors of becoming an MVP, and that's what I'm really excited about. I'm not saying he is an MVP yet, but throwing for 30-plus touchdowns with only 11 interceptions, over 4,000 yards, that's MVP territory. You've got another year of maturation with this receiver group, which will be intact. There's no questions, right? Biggest question is Aaron Jones. But this group of pass catchers with Jordan Love, they're here for the next few years. So this group should only get better. Now, this is where I will say I owe a formal apology to Jason Vrabel. Because I didn't think that he was very good at his job earlier in the season, certainly when the receivers were not looking good. But I also was a little bit critical of him last season when receivers were making mistakes they shouldn't be. And hats off to you, sir. You have coached this group well. they could be 6 deep at receiver right now. If depending on how Bo Melton and Malik Heath turn out, you could have a real problem if you're adding bodies to the receiver room this offseason, which is an interesting place to be considering where we just were. So, formal apology to Jason Vrabel and credit where credit is due. That guy is doing great work with that receiver group. They top to bottom look prepared. They look hungry. They look just ready to go out there and play some football, man. So, very excited about that.
Yeah, and I'll apologize as well because I was right there with you because the receivers were just not getting it done. Too many drops and missed assignments, but I think it's a lesson that you shouldn't be judging these coaches like that when they have such a young room. I mean, it was all first-year guys and second-year guys, so there's going to be ups and downs, and we should have expected that. And maybe it was more than we expected as far as the downs go, but still, you need to take a longer-term look at it before we started calling for Vrabel's job or ripping him. And it's also
so much fun, though.
I know. I'm right, and it's hey, we're emotional, we're fans. That's what it's about. But I think it just goes to maybe a bigger point too. Like, I think you can tell a head coach and how they're doing their job because he's so visible in everything your team does. But as far as these position coaches and even coordinators that aren't calling plays, it's so hard to know what really goes on behind the scenes and what they're doing. And to say like Jason Vrabel's not getting it done in his room because his guys are struggling, like, is that coaching or is it just these guys are brand new to the NFL and it's a totally different game than college? The speed of it, the preparation, everything's different. And they're going to make mistakes. I don't care how good you are as a rookie receiver. And a lot of times rookie receivers do struggle, though I guess it's kind of changing now, but they still generally do struggle. I don't know if that's coaching. And the talent was there with the receivers. And now we're finally seeing them deep into the season, having that NFL experience, getting used to being a professional, that the talent's coming out and showing a lot more than the mistakes are. There's still some mistakes there, but definitely nowhere near the number that we were seeing early in the year or the middle part of the season. So I think we ripped them too soon, and that's what we do as fans. So that's all.
So here
us.
we are.
But
we're doing the responsible thing and owning our hot takes, our cold takes, our bad takes and good takes. All in all, these are good problems to have, right? Now, I will say I'm not ready to apologize to Stenavich yet because I don't really know how much he's a part of this turnaround.
Did he hurt you? What did he do to you? Is there like a person?
I'll tell you what, man. Last season was rough.
See, this is my point. Like, we don't know what he's doing behind the scenes. And if LaFleur is spending more time with the defense, maybe then Stenavich is doing more offensively, so he actually deserves more of the credit for the offense.
It's possible. And I think here's what we will get is based on the actions of the offseason, you'll know who was responsible for what.
Yeah.
Because I still don't think it's a coincidence that things started looking good after the comment of we're going to shake things up. But I know that everybody, there's some Steno defenders out there, so that's totally fine. I love it. But yeah, so wanted to issue that formal apology, and we'll see just where this all goes. And these guys go off winning a Super Bowl. I'll give credit to every daggum coach on this team because they did something right. But until then, let's just have some fun with being in the playoffs, and getting to go down to Dallas now. Come down to Dallas. I'm down here, by the way. Let's go.
Coming down to visit. Before we move on, one other thing about the Bears game.
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
Smacking those DBs around was so awesome because they talk so much shit and their little stupid celebrations. And after every whistle, they're trying to start a fight and get in people's faces, but they were getting toasted.
Yeah.
And the smack that they talked and continue to talk, it's unbelievable. Go win something. Go cover somebody.
It's sad.
Come on,
Was
dude.
it Brisker with the comment?
Brisker, yeah. But then you see Stevenson after the whistle. He's in there. You see some of their they're a fake tough team, trying to start fights, trying to be the big tough bullies. Yeah. You scored 9 points. Your defense got walked up and down the field. and you're the Bears. Like, you're going nowhere. Shut your mouth.
Going home.
Who do you think you
Going
are?
to the offseason.
Like,
The Bears do.
it was so nice to see that. It was annoying me watching those guys play and all the junk that they were trying to do after the whistle and trying to come in there with hard hits and start. It was like, come on, you're fake. You're fake. You're trying to make a name for yourself. You're trying to be the big bully, and you're not. Like, it's not a rivalry when you never win. So
yeah,
the bully is the Packers, and they don't have to act like a bully. They just go in there and win.
They're just winning, man. And now they're too young to act like a bully. They don't even like these guys are. They don't know they should act like the bully. You know what I mean?
They don't
haven't
need
been around for all that winning.
They're just going to dominate the Bears and move on. And these guys can be the fake bullies, and when they get punched in the mouth, they fold.
Well, and I can almost understand the trash talk leading up to the game, but the comments afterwards, it's like, oh, those guys there's nothing over there. There's nothing. It's like, man, you just got your butt handed to you by nothing. So what does that make you? You know what I mean?
And they weren't even at full strength. If Watson and Dobbs are in there, and a healthy Musgrave,
Musgrave, yeah.
Like, and Bo Melton's toasting you, and Reed and Wicks, like, come on, shut up.
Yeah, stop. Gotta love it. Gotta love it when the Bears still suck.
Always.
As they do.
Yep.
So, all right. Usually before we dive into the next game, we check out what the injury situation looks like. Looking pretty healthy. I mean, with the exception of Watson. I guess we got to talk about that. I mean, Watson is this mystery, and this is a pattern now with injuries. We just get kind of spot communication, I guess. That
was a weird one because he had practiced Wednesday and Thursday, sat out Friday, so it was like, all the alarm bells went off. But then LaFleur after practice, that was the plan. So it said, okay, I think he might play, and then he was inactive. And then LaFleur at least admitted it after the game and said, yeah, that was just, I lied to you. That was gamesmanship. Because I guess he wanted to keep the Bears guessing, which, hey, at least he stepped up and admitted he lied.
Yeah, I guess I'll take that.
But, I mean, I wouldn't count on Watson this week. It'd be great. It would be a bonus if he plays, but the hamstring's just still not right.
And
the bigger problem is going to be
you're playing with house money right now, and hamstrings, they suck. So you might as well just let him get fully healthy for next year. Or if you're going to win this game, the further you go, the more valuable he is to be healthy. So
yeah, it's a bonus at this point. And if he's out there Wednesday, at least that's a good sign. We'll be practicing. At least that's something. I'm still not going to count on him until I actually see him on the active list before the game, or not on the inactive list, I guess is the way I should say it. But if he plays, it's a bonus. And right now I'm not counting on that. And then the other issues, Romeo Dobbs going out with, he actually went to the hospital.
Yeah.
They're calling it a chest injury, but apparently, according to John Kuhn, who's on the sidelines doing the radio broadcast, Dobbs was coughing up blood when he came off the field. So that ain't good.
Seeing that now.
And I'm guessing it's a rib injury of some sort.
Yikes.
They went to the hospital, but then he came back by the time they were back in the locker room celebrating. So I'm not counting on him this week. I mean, if he's coughing up blood, that sounds like maybe broken ribs or something internally like that. Maybe they're not.
What's happening here? This is shaping up to be a LaFleur special.
It is, yeah. But I mean,
the Cowboys could be in real trouble here.
I think it could be a LaFleur special, regardless. But yeah, it looks like, again, I think if Dobbs plays, it's a bonus. But don't count on Dobbs. Don't count on Watson. I think they're going to get a little bit more out of Luke Musgrave this week. Don't count on Dobbs or Watson.
Yeah. Okay. But I mean, relatively healthy going into this time of year.
Other than
Jair is probably as healthy as he's been. I'm trying to think of other major injuries. It seems like Devondre Campbell is pretty healthy now.
And that's the other one. McDuffie could be. I mean, he had a concussion. He was out this. We'll always say maybe he's back. But if he's back, as long as Campbell's healthy, he's the third inside guy.
He's important on special teams.
Yes, he's important on special teams. And I actually think at times he's played well this year.
Yeah.
So from defense. So, want him the back, but we'll see with the concussion. So, yeah, I mean, other than receiver, they're pretty healthy.
Jenkins looked
the
like
other
he
one.
was fine.
Yeah, Dylan too. He was out more so with the stinger, so surprised that kept him out. but you don't know, kind of how those stingers go. Maybe he's back. Again, would be nice, would be a bonus, especially short yardage, and to give Jones a breather at times. So yeah, I guess we'll see about Dillon and McDuffie this week. I think those two are the ones that are possible. To me, Dobbs and Watson would be a bonus. It would be a really nice bonus, but wouldn't count on them.
Yeah. Relatively healthy though, man. Going into this game now, so there's all sorts of things we could say about the Packers' record in Dallas here and all of that. I'm not interested in jinxing anything. So I don't care if anybody else is superstitious or a little stitious, whatever we want to call it. Don't care about the past. We're not living in the past. We're talking about the Packers in 2024 now, coming down to Dallas and taking on this version of the Cowboys, which might be the best version of the Cowboys since Dak Prescott became the quarterback. Do you think?
You could make that argument. I think they were pretty good last year, too. But yeah, I mean, I think this is the best Prescott's played. And it's interesting because they changed offensive coordinators at the end of last season. Got rid of Kellen Moore, who was calling the plays because McCarthy wanted to call it. And now you get the best season out of Prescott. That says something about McCarthy, who doesn't get much credit down there.
Yeah.
And he didn't get a whole lot of credit in Green Bay. The dude's a good coach.
He's a good coach.
Credit where credit's due. He's done a really good job this year. And when, Packer fans, if you haven't watched the Cowboys this year, Prescott looks very similar to how, and I'm not saying he's Aaron Rodgers, but the pre-snap stuff, calling things out, getting the protection set up, like you're going to see that and be like, man, that does look like the Packer offense there. But other elements of it are different. They use more motion than McCarthy ever did in Green Bay and stuff like that. But yeah, Dak's been phenomenal this year. He's in the MVP discussion. And CeeDee Lamb's one of the best receivers in football. He is going to be an absolute problem. And they line him up all over. He's going to play a lot in the slot. And that's really, I think, where he's going to hurt the Packers. You got to limit what he does to them in the slot, but they're put him outside. They're going to take deep shots with him. They're hide him, in some bunch and stack formations. They motion him a lot. He's just phenomenal. And Prescott will go to him when he's covered at any time in any situation, and he makes plays for him all over the field. He is really, really good and having a special season. So you're not going to shut him down. You just got to limit how many explosives he gets and how many times he gets in the end zone. You got to limit the amount of damage or the big plays that he makes against you. Because he's going to get his catches. He's going to get his yards. You just got to catch him and tackle him.
Yep.
And you got to limit him. He can't have 12 catches. If you can limit him to 7 or 8, I think that would be good. That's the best you can. I mean, obviously, if you can get less than that, great. But he's that good where I don't know if you can keep him too far under 10 catches. And then if you want to go deeper into it, Brandon Cooks has come on as their number 2 receiver. He's always been a good speed guy. He's really picked it up the second part of the year. So he's, you don't want to let CeeDee Lamb beat you, and he should be the number 1 focus of the game plan where, don't let him beat you. And if they beat you with Brandon Cooks and their other guys, you kind of tip your hat.
Yeah.
But Brandon Cooks is pretty good. And then for Wisconsin Badger fans out there, Jake Ferguson at tight end has had a real nice season, and they like throwing to him on the seam. Dak Prescott will throw the ball down to him, over top of linebackers and between safeties right down the seam, and he's made some plays doing that this year. And then Tony Pollard at running back, he hasn't been as good as he was last year, but he still can catch the ball. He's elusive. Thing with Pollard is he's not like a guy you're going to give him 20 carries, and McCarthy's not. He's not going to give a running back 20 carries anyway when he's got a quarterback like Prescott. But you want to limit what Pollard does, because if they have a run game going and then you got Dak and CeeDee Lamb, it's going to be a nightmare trying to stop them. So at least make them not have that running game, keep them one-dimensional with the pass, because if they have both working, forget about it. The defense, they're not going to get any stops unless the Cowboys just screw up.
Right.
I will say, though – no, go ahead.
No, that's what I was going to say is earlier whenever I referenced that, that's where I think you could get a track meet out of this thing, where you
Yeah.
really have to just be able to go possession for possession, and whoever makes the first mistake probably loses.
Yeah, and the Cowboys this year have struggled at times in the red zone. That's kind of been one of their areas. Like they move the ball up and down the field and they do score points, but they've had trouble pretty much most of the season in the red zone. So maybe you bend and you get them down there and you can hold them to 3 points. But on the other side of that, when the Packers have the ball, 3 points isn't good enough. You're going to need touchdowns.
Right.
And that's,
exactly.
I think you got to go into that game with that mentality. Like you got to score touchdowns because they're a very good offense. Their offensive line, especially their 2 guards, but I think they're all going to be ready to go in the game. And when they're all healthy and playing well, that's a very good offensive line too. So,
yeah,
I think he absolutely has their work cut out for him. You got to hope for some mistakes, I think, and just limiting the big plays with CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, no doubt, man. It's going to be an interesting test. I mean, the thing that's interesting to me, though, is the Packers haven't really been untested down the stretch, right? You'd like to – I'm kind of even at default kind of inclined to assume, well, they've had it sort of easy, which is true from a quarterback perspective. Justin Fields is more of a running threat than a passing threat at this point. So you haven't really faced a Dak Prescott caliber quarterback since you played Pat Mahomes, and they're having their own set of issues. That's where I'm looking at this going, okay, this could be tough from that perspective. It could be tough on the defensive front because this is probably one of the best O-lines they've seen this season. Another Badger, Tyler Biadasz, sitting there at center. Yeah. Cowboys quietly have this, like, Wisconsin center pipeline going with Travis Frederick starting it and now Biadasz carrying it on. But anyway, so yeah, that's probably one of the best O-lines they face. So you will have a test there with one of your strengths, right? I'd say one of their strengths is their pass rush right now, what their D-line's able to do, following, or running in front of Gary and Smith and those guys. I mean, it's been impressive, but how well have those lines played versus how well they played before they played the Packers? I don't know. I mean, Tevin Jenkins, for example, on the Bears O-line, he did not look very good the other day, and he's a pretty good player. So you just kind of wonder what level of play you're getting out of some of these guys, but the Cowboys are going to bring it, man, and they play well at home. So that's all I was saying there.
Yeah, and I think the one spot on that offensive line where maybe the Packers could exploit it is the right tackle, Terrence Steele. He's decent right tackle, but Rashawn Gary, that's his side usually. I think that could be a spot where Gary goes off and makes some plays because the rest of their line's pretty damn good. Now, that's not saying the Packers can't make plays or won't make plays against those guys, but I think kind of the weak link is the right tackle. So maybe this is a big game for Gary, or maybe he just makes 1 or 2, big plays, a strip sack or something like that, a deflected pass that goes to for an interception, something like that. You need Gary this game. I mean, you need him every week, but this could be the game where he really makes the difference.
Well, yeah, you want to see playmakers show up in big games like this, and certainly Gary's one of them. You see Jair show up in this game against CeeDee Lamb. You want to see Aaron Jones show up the way he did last time he was in Dallas. If he could put up 4 touchdowns, I think they call this one a win. So yeah, I mean that's I agree. Those are the things that I think we're watching for from this game. It's going to be a tough challenge. It's for sure going to be a tough challenge. So the question becomes, what is the path to victory? What does it take for the Packers to win this game? Lead us off on that thought, Tim.
So I think at least from the Packers' offensive point of view, it's run the ball and stick with the run. And Aaron Jones, the last 3 games, over 100 yards. He's red hot. The running game's great. We see how much of a factor is. But then if you look at the Cowboys' run defense, they gave up 200-plus yards to the Bills just a few weeks ago in a game where Josh Allen only had to throw 16 passes because they ran it all over him.
Yeah.
The Cowboys have had a lot of big leads this year, especially at home. So teams – at least statistically, it hasn't looked great running games, but they've had some other games San Francisco early in the year, Arizona early in the year. I mentioned Buffalo. I thought the Lions ran on them a little bit, but for whatever reason, the Lions allowed Jared Goff to throw too many passes and he made mistakes. But you can run on Dallas. And I think that's where the Packers really, as much as they got to score points and Jordan Love's got to play great, you got to focus. The focus should be the running game and start it with Aaron Jones. Because I think, one, he can have a big game. He's shown that in Dallas the last time he was down there. But this Cowboys team can be run on a little bit, and it also slows down their pass rush because their whole front line is just they play so fast, and they're so hell-bent on getting to the quarterback. They fly off the ball. But sometimes they forget about the running game, and they give up some big plays and some big games to James, guy like James Cook in Buffalo ran all over him.
Yeah.
And the other thing is they love to play nickel and dime. You're not going to see them play their base defense. Their base defense basically is nickel and dime. So they like to play a lot of safeties. They'll play 3 safeties or put safeties at the linebacker level. So you can get out and run on them. And I think the Packers have to do that and stay with it.
Yeah.
And I mean, Micah Parsons is just, he's a beast. And yeah, I mean, we've seen Max Crosby going back to the game in Vegas. We've seen Hutchinson twice. They've seen some good pass rushers. Hunter up in Minnesota. Parsons is like right up there with all the best pass rushers in the league.
He's as good as it gets right now.
Yeah, and they move them all over. They put them on both tackles. They put them over the center at times, and you get a matchup one-on-one with your center. Good luck to Josh Myers if he sees that.
God.
But it's not just him. Like DeMarcus Lawrence can rush.
Yeah,
or Dexter Lawrence, right? And then what's the other? Terrence Armstrong. They have pass rushers, and they come at you fast, and they come at you in waves, and they will blitz too. But you got to have a plan for Micah Parsons on every snap. Like, where is he? You can't be blocking him with tight ends. You can't be blocking him with running backs. It has to be offensive linemen. You have to be helping those guys. And the problem is they're smart on defense, and they create one-on-one matchups for him. So ball's got to be out real quick. But what also will help that is the running game. And if it's 2nd and 3, it changes a lot of things, whether instead of being 2nd and 10, because it's 2nd and 10, they're coming.
Yeah.
So it's blocking those guys up front and running on them, because I think if you can block them up front, they do have good corners, but those corners get beat a lot. One kid, Bland, has a lot of interceptions. I think he ended up with 9 this year and 5 pick sixes.
Yeah, he broke the record for pick sixes. Good player.
Yeah, good player, but he gets toasted a lot. He gives up a lot of yards.
Seen that.
The Seahawks targeted him and lit him up at the end of beginning of December.
Stephon Gilmore is questionable, so I don't know.
Yeah, he hurt his shoulder. They're saying he's going to play, but I would make him tackle.
Yeah,
make him tackle. See how healthy that shoulder is, and he's a good player, but he doesn't have the speed that he used to have. So make him run and tackle. I think they can throw on those guys as long as they pass protect. So You said it's going to be a track meet. I think it very well could be. And the Packers have to, at least offensively, they have to have that mentality. Like, we need to score points, and they have to be touchdowns. And we got to score every time we have the ball.
I think offensively, you have to expect that it's going to take at least 35 points to win this game.
Yeah.
And that's not a dig on the defense as much as I do enjoy that. It's just, you got to understand the caliber of team you're facing here. And it is from an offensive and defensive perspective. There's some star power on the offense. There's some star power on the defense. And if they make plays, you've got to be prepared to match and make plays. I would say what it's going to take for them to win is going to be a very similar recipe to what it has been. Starting on the defensive side of the ball, you've got to rush Dak Prescott. One thing I will say about him, having been down here and watched more Cowboys games than most other teams outside of the Packers, Dak is poised to an extent. He will lose his composure, not in a way that he gets mad or has outbursts, but he just gets to this point where you can see that his thought process is rushed and hurried, and he's just not feeling good about how
things.
Exactly. He starts forcing things. He stops seeing things as well. That's where I think they've got to have a plan to make him uncomfortable. You've got to get him moving outside of the pocket and then have somebody in his face out there. You've got to be able to create that pressure from the inside, get him rolling out, and then have that Quay Walker still over in his face over the top, so that there's really no good place for him to go except for these checkdowns. And I guarantee you these guys are going to want to make big plays. And if you can take that away from them, as much as Joe Barry loves taking away the big play, that might really play into his favor here this week, because that's what they're going to want. The Cowboys want to hit those big plays, and they are not much of a play from behind team. So if you can get a lead or keep it close, I think that Dak Prescott and that offense don't play nearly as well. It doesn't mean they aren't going to score points. They're going to score their points. But again, it's just a matter of leveling the playing field a little bit. What does it take for the Packers to win? I think that's what it takes from a defensive perspective. On the offensive side of the ball, yeah, I mean, it's Micah Parsons. I don't care what else whether you're running the ball, throwing the ball, you have got to neutralize Micah Parsons. From there, you do whatever they give you, right? Whatever they're going to give you, take that. If you neutralize Micah Parsons, you've got a real shot to win this game. And that's you've seen that. You've seen both sides of that, right? We've seen Max Crosby look like an all-pro defensive player of the year, just completely wreck a game on his own. And then we saw what happened when Aiden Hutchinson disappeared the second time they played the Lions. Totally different ball game there. Yeah. So I think that has to be priority number one on the offense, is whatever you do, whether it's run or pass, has got to be – every single play has got to involve neutralizing Micah Parsons. One way I think that would be exciting for them to be able to do that, if they can get Christian Watson back, is those jet sweeps, and he can be a decoy, right? They know how fast he is, and if he's in the game, I guarantee they expect him to be able to run full speed. So if there's one person who can almost single-handedly neutralize Micah Parsons, not entirely, but enough to make him hesitate so that you can get where you need to go on him, that'd be the way to do it, right? Keep Christian Watson flying back and forth, Jaden Reed flying back and forth, make these guys think they got to run horizontal sideline to sideline.
And Watson had his breakout game last season at Lambeau against the Cowboys.
Yep.
So
they know they don't want to get beat by him again.
Yeah, they're gonna have he'll have their attention if he's there.
Yeah. And that's where, and I think I've mentioned this before, but that when you can get a defense just hesitating because they see Christian Watson running across the formation, and they've at least have to think about, oh shoot, do I need to run with this guy? That in itself is the difference between Aaron Jones getting 2 to 5 yards and 10 yards, because defenders' feet they get stuck. And that is all it takes for Aaron Jones to run past those guys. He is quick as lightning, and that is when it happens, when it works well, it's just art. It's like watching art in motion. It's so beautiful. Yeah. So that's what I would think is you've got to keep those elements going on the offensive side of the ball, that horizontal movement, and keep those guys tired and guessing. But it's gonna be a tough game.
Yeah, and I think you run it. When you run Aaron Jones, you run it right at him.
Yeah, exactly.
You lean on them, and you try to find, their undersized safeties that are playing at linebacker level. You try to take their fast, aggressive upfield line and use it against them. And you run it right at them. You don't be running it outside where they can run to you with their speed. Take it man on man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pound it up. Pound it between the tackles on them.
I totally agree. And that's where I think that if you can keep them guessing horizontally, you will have success vertically.
Yeah. Spread them out to horizontal and then run it down their throat.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's it's going to be an exciting game. I'm pretty pumped. So
it's a really cool matchup. There's going to be a ton of storylines, but it's two of the biggest fan bases, two of the most popular teams, and then you have McCarthy against the Packers in the playoffs, and it's cool. I'm excited for it. I mean, I after the Bears win, and I'm sitting there before the Rams won to decide where they were going, where the Packers were going. I'm watching it and I'm like, you know what? I don't even care. I don't care if they play Detroit. I don't care if they play Dallas.
Right. Doesn't
Whoever
matter.
they got to play, go play them. Like,
Yep.
I don't care.
Doesn't matter.
They can beat anybody. They can lose to anybody. But it's like, they're underdog. And I shouldn't keep calling them underdogs because,
They are.
Their former coach, who they're going to see this weekend, famously said, "We're nobody's underdog."
Good.
Back in the day before the Super Bowl run. But they are the underdogs, and I think they can play loose. Like, nobody's going to expect them to win. They're a young team. Like, the pressure's all on Dallas, and we see this from Dallas year after year. When they make the playoffs, they're a different team in the playoffs. They play so much tighter. The pressure gets to them. I mean, you had Jerry Jones come out on Sunday. When they asked him about Mike McCarthy, he's going to come back. And he wouldn't even come out and say, yeah, McCarthy's coming back next year. What are you, crazy? He won't give the guy a vote of confidence. Like, let's see what we do in the playoffs. Leadership. Yeah, let's see what we do in the playoffs. Like, that gets to your players. Like, you think that's helping them? You think that's helping McCarthy and his staff? Like, it starts with the owner. But they always play tighter in the playoffs. They always choke in the playoffs. Yeah, there's a reason they haven't been to the NFC Championship game since, the mid-'90s.
Yeah, well, and that's why I said attitude reflects leadership, man. Yeah. You've had different players and different coaches in there in the same result. It makes you wonder what kind of conversations happen whenever the playoffs come around. But that's an owner that has publicly said, man, if I could write a check to win a Super Bowl, I would.
Right.
And so you wonder what kind of pressure is he putting on people when the playoffs start? What's going on in that building? And I think that matters, man. You see different organizations. It's so weird how different organizations can have almost a personality that transcends the different players and coaches that go into those teams. I mean, for example, just to have a little bit of fun on appropriately themed podcast here. How the Bears can just constantly not have a 4,000-yard passing quarterback. Like, my goodness, the Packers just can't help but find them all over the place, and the Bears, they haven't found one in over 100 years.
It's almost like the Packers have a plan.
Go figure.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's these organizations have personalities about them, and I think some Dallas fans, do believe that maybe there was like an unspoken curse about the team, and now that Jimmy Johnson has been added to the Ring of Honor, that curse will be lifted and they'll go off and win a Super Bowl. I suppose we'll find out. But I'm with you, man. I am very excited about this game because we're playing with house money right now. This team was not supposed to be in the playoffs this year. We were happy just learning that Jordan Love's the guy. Jordan Love's the guy. Now we've also learned that Jordan Love actually has MVP potential. The ceiling for this team just got a lot higher next season, I think, for a lot of Packer fans. But this season, let's just go see what we can do. You know what I mean? I mean, if you win this game against Dallas, you got to go out to San Francisco. And if you can win that game, you can win any game.
Right.
I don't know that you can beat San Francisco.
Yeah, we'll talk about that next week.
We'll get there later.
Yeah, let's just get to Dallas first.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, it's a great feeling to be where they are right now.
It definitely is. It definitely is. So, Packer fans, I hope y'all are having fun with this. Let's not get caught up on what should be, what should have been, what could be, what all this. What is right now is the Packers are back in the playoffs with Jordan Love as a starter, and it is not a fluke. There's nothing fluky about this. This team is good. They've got talent for days, and next man up is working. So whatever LaFleur is doing, and we've said this now most of the season, this team has not once quit on that man. And there was a lot of chatter, especially once Jair got suspended, about losing the locker room and all this stuff, myself included. And I just – he's done a masterful leadership job from what we can see here. LaFleur has. And just appreciate it, guys. Appreciate what we have here. This is amazing. And Goot, for crying out loud, the fun thing that's been going around Packers Twitter the last couple of days is the screenshot of the draft class from 2023. You have 10 significant contributors from that draft class on a playoff team. That is wild. I think you'd have to look pretty hard to find a comparable draft class to that. I can't think of one, to be honest, but especially not in Packers history, but just in general.
Yeah.
So very, very cool. That's a good sign that the GM knows what he's doing, knows how to do his job. I haven't heard a whole lot of we need to get rid of Goot at all.
Yeah, I mean, we've been hearing that for years now because of his draft pick, his first round pick in 2020, and now that first round pick in 2020 turned into a franchise quarterback. So
looking pretty good.
Yeah, maybe he knew what he was doing, and I love seeing everybody kept the receipts on Twitter.
Oh man,
it's been so sweet, and
the receipt printer is just hot right now. It is just rolling.
Yeah. What were they doing drafting Jordan Love? Well, they were drafting a franchise quarterback is what they were doing.
Yeah, it's just amazing. So you gotta love it, especially the Packers fans who were in tune for the darker days of Ted Thompson. Ted Thompson certainly had some beautiful drafts, but man, he had a period there that was just dreadful.
Slipped.
It was awful. It was really bad. And seeing a GM now do what Goot's done there's a lot of different examples of that. Having the balls to take Jordan Love, hats off to you, sir. But then the draft class this year, the maneuvering to get Jair Alexander the way that he did, and then getting another first round pick that he turned into, I believe it was Darnell Savage the next season. He's done a great job. He's done a great job in maneuvering. He's not 100%, and no GM is, but man, some of his hits are hits. And now you see Bo Melton coming on. That's another one that he signed off of a practice squad. So it just let the GM cook, guys, because he is always cooking. He's still cooking right now. He's in the kitchen. He's cooking. It smells good. I can smell it. It smells like a playoff win. We'll see. Anyway,
let's hope so.
But shall we make some NFC North predictions here, or just NFC predictions in general?
Let's do the whole NFC.
Just all of it. I see that you've lined up
3
here.
games.
We'll save the one that we care the most about for last here, but we'll start off with the Eagles and the Bucks. I think this is a super interesting matchup, man. I mean, you're close to the Eagles up there geographically. You've got to be hearing some of the chatter. What in the world is going on with that team?
I mean, they want to fire the head coach. He just took them to the Super Bowl last year, and they were 10-1 with him. I mean, it's in the papers. Like, there are people calling for his job. He's lost the locker room. I mean, there's players they're openly questioning the coaching and what they're doing. We've talked about it previously. They changed defensive coordinators. That hasn't worked. They've been awful. I think they're at 5 out of 6 games they've now lost. The Giants smoked them yesterday, and they just lost a couple guys to injuries, and then they started pulling them out of the game just because it was a lost cause anyway. And Dallas was winning. They lost to the Cardinals the week before at home. I think it's 5 out of 6, and the one win was the Giants game, which they almost gave away to the Giants. So they beat them once and got beat by them. They're playing some awful football right now. I do think, though, getting the Bucks is the best matchup they could have hoped for. Because if they would have got the Lions or Cowboys, I'd say, yeah, they're done. There's no way they're winning against either one of those teams.
I mean, can they beat the Bucks? They just got smashed by the Giants.
Yeah, and they got smashed by the Cardinals the week before that at home. I mean, everything. Watching the team and seeing what they're doing, everything would tell you, like, nah, there's no way they're winning another game this season. They're done. But I don't know. Maybe it's just prior, like, hey, this was a Super Bowl team. They started 10-1, and they have so many, veteran players who have had big impacts the last couple seasons. Like, they got to get it together and at least beat the Bucks, right? Because the Bucks, since the Packers game, have struggled. I mean, I think they barely beat the Panthers. I think they won 9-0 yesterday or whatever. Yeah. And the week before they had lost at home to the Saints. Like, they haven't really played good since the Packers game. So everything, if you look at it, you'd be like, yeah, the Eagles can't win. But I think they're going to win. I mean, just because I can't get it out of my head. Like, they got to be better than the Bucks, right?
Well,
I don't have a good reason for picking the Eagles, but I don't have a good reason
fair
for
enough.
picking the Bucks either.
I mean, it's strange to me, and this is where I guess it makes sense that the players would be questioning the coaches, because you got a loaded roster there in Philly. Just loaded. And I know it's injury depleted. I think Sidney Brown went out of the game
Yesterday,
yeah, and then
they,
AJ
like
Brown's
Slay's
down
been
for a bit.
hurt. Yeah, but he's going to play. Like, Darius Slay's hurt, but he's coming back. Devontae Smith was hurt, but he's coming back. Like, they're short-term injuries. Other than, like you said, Sidney, he's done. He tore his ACL, but the rest of their guys are short-term. So it's not even they can be like blaming it on injuries. You know, it's.
I don't know that.
they're
I'm
just
glad I'm
getting-
not a Philly fan. I'll say that right
Oh,
now.
you should hear them up here. It is.
Nope, I'm good.
They're on the next season, and they're looking at head coaches, and yeah, they're getting the pitchforks out.
God, we're just in the Super Bowl.
It don't matter.
Goodness gracious, the NFL is wild.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so then you can't pick the Eagles? Is that what you're telling me? Who are you picking?
I'm picking the Eagles. I don't have a
Picking
good
the
reason
Eagles? You
to,
don't
but
have-
I'm just going to
okay.
pick them.
All right, he's picking the Eagles. I think I'm just going to be contradictory, and I'm going to pick the Bucks here, because the Eagles are just, they seem like they're in a tailspin,
Yeah, they're a mess.
and Baker Mayfield can toss it around to Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, pull off 35 points and win this game, I think. So
Oh, I think it's going to be ugly. I think it's going to be like a 16-13. You know,
yeah. Oh, okay.
turnovers. It's going to be an ugly slop fest, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll see. I'm rooting for chaos. So go Bucks.
Go Bucks too. I don't like the Eagles, but
So then we got the I tried to say that backwards. The Rams and the Lions. I was gonna go with the Ryans and the Lambs. The Rams and the Lions facing off here. Stafford going back to the old stomping grounds in Detroit. What a matchup. The NFL script writers were on their game here.
yeah, that's pretty crazy. Stafford back in Detroit, and even got Goff against Sean McVay, because McVay wanted him out. He was done with them. Took him as far as he could. Yeah, but Stafford back in Detroit's pretty crazy.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, that's going to be really fun. And I mean, they didn't play Stafford yesterday, but Stafford's going to the playoffs hot. He's dealing. And when Stafford's hot, man, he's one of the best throwers in the game. And with those two receivers, and they run the ball too. Kyron Williams is a good running back. They've been running it well. I think the Rams are going to win the game and pull the upset on the road. Like I think the Lions are going to have a real tough time getting stops in the game, unless Stafford's throwing picks or they can get a pass rush. But I mean, they have one pass rusher, which is Hutchinson. I think the Rams can have a plan for him. I think the Rams are going to move the ball and score points. And that's just a matter of, can Goff keep up? And maybe he can, because they do have weapons. But I think the Rams defense is a little better. And I like that Lions have players. Goff's been in the playoffs. He's been to a Super Bowl. They do have guys that have been to the playoffs, but as a team and as their head coach, this is their first experience. And I think that might get to them. And it's the first playoff game in Detroit in 30 some years. The crowd's going to be nuts and all that. But I think sometimes maybe you get a little too hyped too. And maybe you're not quite ready for the moment. And I also just think the Lions have shown a lot of cracks really over the last 2 months of the season. Right before Thanksgiving it started. And then obviously the Packers, beat them down up in Detroit. I don't think they're that good defensively. I don't think they can keep up with the Rams offense enough. And I think they make enough mistakes. We know Goff can turn it over. I think they make enough mistakes on offense where the Rams can get their stops, and I think the Rams pull the upset.
Yeah, I actually I'm going to agree with you here. I think the Lions are somewhat fraudulent at this point. I'm not going to say they're, the 2022 Minnesota Vikings.
No.
But yeah, I think that they may have overachieved a bit. Stafford going back to Detroit just feels like 400 yards passing to me.
I can see him lighting them up and toasting them. Yep.
It just feels like that he is going to be dialed in. He's got a coach behind him in McVay that would absolutely dial up 400 yards for him. I think that the Rams march in there and pull up the upset. I really do. So we're both going Rams in that game. Now, the game that we actually care about here, or that we care about the most, we care about all the games. NFL football is fun to watch. Our beloved Packers traveling to Dallas, where they happen to have a pretty good record, including one of the best wins, right, in the Super Bowl. So, right. Packers down here facing off against McCarthy. Can they pull it off, Tim?
I think they can. It's going to be tough, and I understand why they're the underdog, and they should be the underdog. It's going to take a lot to pull it off, but why not? Like, I think they should go down there loose, play aggressive, play loose. All the pressure's on the Cowboys.
True.
And the pressure for the Cowboys always increases once they get to the playoffs, and they always seem to choke, and this seems like a really good spot for them to choke. Like Green Bay can win down there. They've shown it over time. And as good as Dallas was early in the year, they were dominating teams in that building. Seattle took them right down to the wire. I think that game was the beginning of December. The Lions a couple weeks ago should have beat them if they would have, reported as eligible correctly. So it's getting closer for them. They're just kind of escaping now with some wins at home. And if you look at it, you want to include their road games. They lost at Buffalo. They lost at Miami. So when they've played some tougher teams, it's been tough. It's been close games, or it's been losses for them recently.
Mm-hmm.
I think if Green Bay can get out to a little bit of a lead, and you could say this any week, but I think you get out to a little bit of lead, they're going to really start playing tight. And it gets there, like you talked about with Prescott. He starts forcing things. He starts not seeing things. He gets a little bit rattled. But I think the whole team does. And I think the pressure is going to get to them. So quick start for the Packers, get up a little bit. And then the pressure really ramps up for the Cowboys. And that's when I think they can make some mistakes. But yeah, I mean, it's going to take a lot to win. And, I wouldn't bet on this game. I wouldn't put my money on the Packers.
No.
They are the underdogs. But why not? I think they're playing with house money, and there's no pressure. This is like the cherry on top right now.
No doubt about it.
Go down there and win. Find a way.
No doubt about it. Yeah.
And I think their offense can move the ball. They just got to finish the drives in the red zone with touchdowns instead of field goals. And if their defense can just get a couple stops, or Cowboys make a couple mistakes, whatever it may be, a turnover or two, that might be just enough to save their defense and give their offense enough breathing room.
We're going to see, man. I'm with you. I think they can win this game. I think that they have the offensive firepower to win this game. I think the defense the defense has the talent, the players, to do enough to contain the Cowboys offense to give the Packers offense a chance to win the game. I think Jair can slow down CD. I think that they can keep things contained on that offense. Like I said, they can get pressured on Dak. I really think they can. That should keep the game interesting. So I'm going to pick the Packers, man. I don't have a strong enough reason to pick against them. I can't say that this is wishful thinking. I really think they have a path to beating the Cowboys, but it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a tough game. I think it'll be a close game. I think it'll be one of those kind of like that 2016 playoff matchup where it all comes down to the wire. Everybody's biting their nails, and you get the shot of the guy saying they're celebrating with, a minute 20 left or whatever. So I'm excited about this one. It always seems to be a good game when the Packers come to Dallas, and I'm down here, so I'm going to have some fun with that. Got a lot of Cowboys fan friends that will probably watch the game together. So, go Pack, go, man. I think the Packers are going to win this one and get to the divisional round of the playoffs in Jordan Love's first season as a starter. Write it down. Or I guess you don't have to, because we record podcasts now. So anyway. All right, man. Well, final thoughts about this game before we strap in and hope for the best?
Yeah, don't get too crazy too early because they expect them to give up some points, expect them to give up some yards, but just try to stay as level-headed as possible and let it play out. I think it's going to be a 4-quarter game. I think they got a chance. They can do it. They can pull it off. Tough matchup as it is, they can win this game. Yeah, I think it's score points, score touchdowns instead of field goals. Don't let Micah Parsons wreck the game and have some kind of a plan to slow down CeeDee Lamb. Whatever you did against Justin Jefferson at the end of 2022 season at Lambeau, do the same thing for CeeDee Lamb this year.
Yep.
2 guys on every play. Put Jair on him. Put a safety over the top. Everything you have to do to slow him down. Bump him at the line of scrimmage. Whatever you can do to slow him down. But, yeah, I think there's going to be points. I think it could very well be a shootout. And Jordan Love's first playoff start, it could be a memorable one right off the bat for him.
Oh, I'd say it already is a memorable one.
Oh, it's a memorable season, but this could be a special moment for him.
Really could.
His first start.
Really could. So I would say just enjoy it, Packers fans.
Yeah, have fun with it.
We got house money right now. Let's have some fun with it.
Yeah.
Watching the Packers play in the playoffs and Jordan Love's first season as a starter is just a treat, really. I mean, what else can you say about it? So, just want to say thank y'all for joining us on this week of the Packers Weekly Podcast, part of the PackersTalk.com network. If y'all are watching us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, any of the social media networks, please spike that like button for us. Subscribe, follow, all of the things there. It goes a long way to help us out. We really appreciate it. It only takes a couple seconds on your part. And we're going to keep talking about Packers football every week. So come on back next week. We hope to have a lot of fun talking about Jordan Love's first playoff victory. But regardless, we will be back next week, whether we're talking about a win or a loss. And we're going to have some fun either way. Because right now, this Packers team looks pretty darn good, and it looks like it will for the foreseeable future. So enjoy it, Packers fans. Grab your beverages, grab your playoff snacks, all the good stuff. Enjoy playoff football. And, of course, as always, go, Pack, go.